Greetings. 507 students, qualitative methods, fall 2018. I'm eager, anxious, excited, exhilarated by the challenge you've thrown upon my dais, challenging us to try to meet only from 8:30 to 11:30 on the days we're going to meet. Um, so it's added a bit of excitement to this guy who's taught this class so often. So for that, I thank you. I think we can do it, but we're going to need to have advanced planning. Kind of, you're going to have to deal with a little of this sort of tele crapola. Hope you're into that. I know Mary is. Um, but this will keep us very active during the few hours that we have together. Um, and like I said, I much prefer meeting, even if it's for small bits, throughout the semester rather than big chunks. They're just far more productive, these tighter meetings. So, at the end of our last meeting, finishing Module 1, I did not get to talk to you about some questions to ponder. um, I'm constantly inviting you to go a little deeper, okay? If you're deep, go deeper still. You're competing against yourself with this. It's like yoga, you know. You're the only competitor. So some of you might be really into philosophy, and others might not be. Regardless, this is still valid. Um, so the idea of the fallacy is assuming we know what science is. And I don't mean that just to be cheeky, but rather to force us to increase our rigor. Okay. Um, Same with induction. Induction is a tricky, slippery fish. It's like yang or yin. I'm not sure which one. It's like your shadow. It's like dark matter, maybe. You know? It's this other thing that we're heavily reliant on, but we often forget about and think that it doesn't need management. So ponder this notion of induction as it is on a continuum between induction and deduction. Okay, and I revolve around it around some of my little video lectures that I've linked throughout. So, and I blog about it. There's a lot more I can talk about it, but again, we're getting more and more reliant on you guys to do some independent research on this rather than me introducing some of these subjects. Now, the final one, what is qualitative validity? That one, I think we kind of nailed. On the Trochim website, the idea of trustworthiness and the other word, instead of reliability, validity, that whole quagmire. Don't get yourself trapped in it. Thinking, I mean, because some people don't care. And they just say, when they hear you saying qualitative validity, they know what you're talking about. But other people might be a little more, um, wishing a little more specificity in your language. And so, in the most technical, rigorous sense, there's no such thing as qualitative validity. Because qualitative research, unless it becomes experimental, you're not going to be able to attain valid or reliable results, without experimental statistics. So, hence you look for trustworthiness and I can't think of the other word. Okay, never mind. This was little housekeeping things. I don't know if I resolved or not. And this sort of stuff I'll definitely push off to video things like this so as not to bother everybody. But we did resolve the Maxi Mini. We don't have mini readings anymore, but the Master. This was a pain. I spent like 2.5 hours in class after you all left. And then a little more time because I still screwed up on somebody's readings and all that. At this point, it's final. The roster, the 507 roster, has the links for everybody's readings, and in the syllabus or the weekly document, the document you're looking at right now, that also has the same information. So I believe at this point that everyone has the correct readings that I've assigned, rather haphazardly. I didn't, outside of Mary and Bob, when I was thinking about more novel research gathering techniques, just because I'm assuming they're both more involved in this tech world where novelty and research generation has made most leaps and bounds. Um, but for everybody else, the only thing I've constrained on assigning readings is if you're P12 versus higher ed, and that's because some of the readings are track based. Thus, if you wish to swap with others, feel free. Or if you wish to get help from others, as a sidekick, help you, unpack some of these readings, go for it. Um, in that we are a seminar, the idea is we are all presenting this information to each other. It's like us against knowledge, and we're all compatriots trying to understand it. And I'm one of you in that essence, or that sense. So if you want others to help you or me, I'm more than happy to help you run a presentation on things. I love doing that. I'm just always afraid of being the only voice out there, and hence your involvement helps me to learn this stuff from a different angle. Okay, your research projects, I did not get to discuss them with you, and more in class. I'm not going to. I'm not going to go around and ask team one, team two. Again, that's 42 minutes that we could spend, well, doing whatever else you want to do. Thus, again, the class roster is becoming more and more critical for this. I really need you to update that thing. That is where we might have a back and forth, though, two people, Bob and someone else, a woman, sorry, bad with names. I spent a half an hour talking to them about their research project after class. Um, that is a really clever idea for all of us to embrace. I am very good at helping you in your methodology. I might not know anything about your research topic, and I might not care. I'm really into methodology, qualitative or quantitative. Just unpacking a problematic, or turning a problem into a problematic, meaning something that you can actually, that generates productive inquiry. And so, to that end, please do include me, in these discussions. And like Bob and someone did after class, that's maybe something that all of you could do. Waylay me, strategically after class. I'm happy to stay as long as possible to work on this stuff. But those are the kind of updates, the rehashing, or what should we do, this or that, or whatever. Or furthermore, analysis sessions. If three of you, 2 months from now, have the transcripts of two focus groups that you want to start analyzing, let's sit down as a team. You, two, three of you, and me. And we all sit down together, and it's in a shared Google Doc, and we start mapping out what we can do. Honestly, if you look at me as a resource, that's where some of my best skills shine, and that sort of thing. So please use it, because that's I live for that sort of stuff. Okay, someone's calling me. I'm gonna pause this. All right. Let me see. Pause. Masalam. All right. Boy. All right. All right. I'm gonna pause this thing. What the hell is the damn class? 507 weekly. Oh, there it is. All right. Let me unpause it. All right. You might have heard the last bit of a conversation. You will redact that from your memory. It was private. I'm not sure what I said, but I'm sure it was all okay. Anyway, here we are. Yes. Okay. Said that already, and what is all right? Good. The last thing I wanted to mention in terms of last class was if you want a little more information about ethnography, some of you are into and you're interested in the exotic, life of the ethnographer. I have an utter bias in terms of methodology to think that ethnography is the best form of research, and so I'm frequently very reluctant to talk about it. I don't talk about a lot of anthropology. I'm trying. I and you will both be trying to sell this stuff to lay people, and so the more we can neutralize it and not put shop talk and all that sort of stuff, the better. Okay. So it's not about I am an anthropologist, but that I do anthropology, or better yet, I do qualitative research. Right? And but regardless, if you do want to get a little deeper into it, you can look at this video from Park, and Park is these guys. Bob knows about Park. You ask him. But they were some of the early first people who got design outside of things like interior design of a building and into designing in terms of a new format and having social science help inform the design process. The idea of ethnographers sitting with engineers and that sort of thing is a novel thing. That Park was some of the first people to do. Anyway, there's a nice talk in there. I would say the middle 10 minutes here, from minutes 4 to 16, would do it for you to give you a good handle of what I'm talking about. So that's that. Now, Module 2. Okay, Prelude to Qualitative Fieldwork. There are 3 parts to it, even though the third part is not really, it's only going to be introduced in class, and I might even not even introduce it in class, but introduce it online. Introduced this module because in truth, the ethics module is something I've always designed as a distance module, and frankly, when discussing ethics, it's far better to have a discussion rather than someone lecturing you, unless that lecturer is like a deity, or a judge, or a religious figure that you hold in high respect, that's telling you not to do something or whatever. But for most ethicists, like the ancient Greeks, we do it as a discussion. Right? You can get in bathrobes and get drunk if you want, like the ancient Greeks, or just go on the blog and participate. Anyway, part 1, theory epistemology. This is again the philosophical deep dive that I'm demanding. Sorry, but your leaders know, so deal with it. And then and that one, part 1. See part 1A here. We got Bailey, very easy read. I used to do mini presentations on it, and there's bunches of little PowerPoints that predecessors of yours have done that are probably in the Dropbox, so have at. The real effort you've got to put in is reading this one. I want you all to read it. The Becker article on epistemology. Becker's great, and he deals with complex subject matter very well. It's very sensical. The next one is Turner. This is not as difficult a reading, but it is an important one. And so it's less frightening, I think. Kind of like the Gertz reading was challenging. That'll be how Becker is. Turner will not be that way, and Zimmerman and Weider will not be that way either. Now, Zimmerman-Weider is an odd one. It's from 1977. It's old, and all that, and it's only something that I knew because I'm in a rare, weird group of folks called ethnomethodologists who do frame-by-frame analysis of videotape, to understand universal social features about humans interacting with each other. Like the things like when you get a little too close to a person, how we all feel awkward when how close is too close. Things like that. Anyway, this guy Weider wrote the best dissertation that my advisor's advisor ever read. The guy Ray McDermott at Stanford. That's what he always said about Weider. But the other interesting thing about this, in terms of its applicability, people have used the method explained in Zimmerman and Weider. You guys, repeatedly, over and over. Kate Bays used it in her research. She graduated 2 years ago. Kathleen Schock used it in her research last year. So it's an oldie but a goodie, apparently. Hence, read it. All these articles are in Dropbox or hyperlinked here. Multiple things. This little little 14-minute thing is where I try to make my plea for more sympathy to the inductive side of reality. All right, I'll leave that to that. The slides or the video alone. But do watch the video because there's a lot of good stuff in there, and then I don't have to talk about it in class, even though I'd love to. Part 2 is the methodology, and this is more getting into techniques, okay? And that's Bailey, chapter 5 and 6. Start introducing techniques in the general sense. The whoppers here are this book length for the K-12. This is by track, so this is the higher ed folks. You would read, see higher ed, read The Library Study by Foster Gibbons. And the P12 folks read the Lancy book. That's the entire book, chapters 1 through 7. Lancy, it's 100 pages. But like they say on the first day of grad or law school, you are never going to be able to read everything that we assign you to read, and hence strategic consumption of data is the game. When you open this text, plan to have something you're looking for in it, and look for that and emphasize that. And maybe it is technique. The Foster Gibbons is a study of, I think it's Rochester, a big university, Research One and all that sort of stuff, where they analyzed ethnographers, anthropologists, studied library users, the kids, the faculty, and how they could help inform the design of the library to better improve life with them. So there's a lot of cool novel techniques that come into it. And in terms of novel, ethnographic techniques, instead of a focus group, a workshop, that sort of thing. So, and there's multiple authors in there as well. And so you could focus on some people's readings and skip the others if you want, just to get a good grip of it. All right? This is, again, you're a leader. This is some research. You'll be able to say, oh, yeah, I read this library study one time. I think it was by someone, to get a handle of it. That's kind of the idea. And there are previous PowerPoints in there potentially. I think I'm sharing more with Liz right now. I replicated elements of this study. Me, Hank Delcor, and Cindy Matson. When she was after she was a doctoral student, we did this totally separately, but got a publication out of it. It's not as rigorous and nowhere near as well funded as this study, which is why I'm still saying read Foster Gibbons. That's the big one. But it gets you to think about the kind of research you could do. That all of your research is geared towards informing architects, as it were. But it's not architects. It's designing how a student lives in a college setting and a faculty member, how you could better design products that they have to vie within, either be they digital or physical, in terms of, making learning increase. And so there you are. The next one for the P12 folks, the Lancy. This is, again, if you want to hear an anthropologist's opinion of ed, here's an anthropologist. Unlike me, I was a teacher for years. I'm an anthropologist of education. I've been in ed. I'm in a department of ed now, working with you guys and all that. But this guy's an utter outsider. He's just a pure anthropologist. But what he studies is enculturation writ small, to the element of teaching and learning. Okay. So he brings a nice cross-cultural element to it, looking at kids from other countries and all that sort of stuff. And the chapters are all separate, and that's the same thing with your readings. You might focus on some chapters and not on others. Suzanne might help us with a pre-reading guide as well, and Liz as well, for that matter. And I've been telling moderators to potentially do this. Maybe you get the students, your class, to do some stuff prior to class, again, because we're trying to crunch down on the actual time really needed face-to-face. And so if potentially some blog discussion, pre-reading sort of work is required of you, 5 days before class, don't bemoan it, because it goes towards us getting out before lunch. Okay. Inshallah. Activity, what's this? I don't know what this is. Write a research. Yeah, I think you guys already did this because I've been hounding you on it. Write a good research question. And I haven't gotten to grading them because some people hadn't done it yet. grading them. I'm not grading them. It's not pass fail. It's just I know how to write good research questions, and I can look at yours and say, this could be, and all that. That's all. And I'm not the only one. This whole class, we could all be helping each other write more solid, legitimate dissertation questions. Okay. Um, Again, like I said, part 3 is ethics in the field. It's really important that you are ethical in the field. My class is the only class that really does much on ethics, and previous town hall meetings and all that mentioned that it's good that we cover ethics somewhere, and this is the where. Okay. And so most of it we're going to do outside of class. All right. So after the next time we meet, before the time we come back after that, there'll be a chunk of time, a few weeks in between there, whereby we're going to do all this stuff for ethics. And frankly, I'm going to leave it there because this video is getting too long anyway. I like to keep these things very short, 7 minutes max. And so the only thing I would say is the my freshman. If you're the higher ed folks reading my freshman year, there's some nice ethical quandaries that come up in that book. That you could apply to our listserv discussion. We're going to have kind of a blog discussion on some incidents, some scenarios. What if you had, a little medicine or whatever? This type of scenarios. Blazer incident's one of them, and I've got a few more. All right. I think that's everything. Yes, it is. And I know I'm supposed to have that little hit list thing. Haven't done that yet. What's it called? That little. Anyway, good. I want to get this to you quickly. All the best, guys. Oh, I said it before. I love this group. You guys got good energy. I'm really exhilarated by the fact that we are all working to the same goal. I don't feel that teacher-student crapola that I have felt with previous cohorts. So, amen. Cheers.